So on the outside, this might look like just a normal, ordinary suburban garage, but it's not. Let's check it out.
Hey, what's up, man?
What up?
Welcome to the Pizza Garage.
Thanks, man. This is Chef Leo Spizzirri. He got his start making pizzas in Chicago at the ripe, tender age of 13, and since then, hasn't really stopped. His family is from southern Italy, so pizza literally runs in his blood. After years working in pizzerias, Leo would climb his way to the top as the corporate executive chef for Giordano's, where he was responsible for the pizza at over 40 restaurants. He's super connected in the pizza world, both here in the US and back in Italy, where he travels frequently and even lived for a while to study pizza making. Matter of fact, this guy's gotta be one of the most decorated chefs I've ever met. Over the course of his career, Leo's earned master certifications in literally every single style of Italian pizza on earth. He even spent 3 weeks in Naples to earn his AVPN instructor certification, making him, at the time, one of the only dudes in the US who could teach AVPN-approved pizza classes and open up his own school if he wanted to. Now, Leo is the director of education at Pizza University in Maryland, does events nationwide, makes educational videos, and hosts aspiring pizzeria operators from all over the world right here, in his home pizza-making studio, basically a laboratory known simply as the Pizza Garage. Alright, so Neapolitan style pizza is one of the toughest styles to master on planet Earth. It's probably fair to say, right?
It's difficult. There's a lot of caveats to it.
There's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot of things you should do and a lot of things you should avoid. So to help us kind of navigate this crazy, wild realm, I could think of no one better than this guy right here. Okay, so we're gonna do things 2 ways today. We're gonna do one way, the traditional VPN way. We're gonna make pizza like they would in Napoli. No shortcuts taken.
Nothing. And when we talk VPN, what we're talking about is the Associazione Verace Pizza Napoletana, the AVPN. It's, for all intents and purposes, the governing agency that looks over the Neapolitan pizza through the entire world.
Whoa.
Let's call it the Pizza Mafia.
Pizza Mafia, pizza gods, whatever you wanna call them. They're hopefully watching down upon us today.
Yeah, I hope so too.
For the second pizza, we're gonna take all the lessons that we learned making it the classic, authentic way, and we're gonna kind of break it down to make it kind of more approachable and simple for anybody to make at home.
So I'm gonna try to make this as simple as possible with ingredients that you can get at any grocery store.
Heck yeah.
And then we can kind of look at them and say, well, what's the trade-off? How close did we get?
Let's start with the real deal then, huh?
Let's rock and roll. To do this, we gotta make some dough, and I could easily make this with a dough mixer, but I think that to learn how to do this by hand, that's an amazing lesson in itself.
Let's get to work.
Let's go. So Neapolitan dough is super simple, 4 ingredients. This is flour that comes from Napoli. This is Antimo Caputo brand, 00 flour. This is their Neapolitan flour known as Pizzeria brand. Then we have fine sea salt. This actually comes from Trapani, which is from Sicily. Fresh yeast, which might not be easy for everybody to find, but we're using fresh yeast today. And then just good, clean water.
Not from, you know, Mount Vesuvius or anything, just regular water?
Yeah, over here we don't bring it in, we don't ship it in. This is actually from
it's Fiji.
Lake Michigan.
Lake Michigan, I like that.
So the easiest way, we're gonna take all of our water, we're gonna put this into the bowl. Then once all our water is in here, we're gonna dissolve the salt into this water. We like to use fine sea salt because sea salt comes from water and it likes to go back into water. And because this is naturally derived from the ocean, sometimes you do find little things floating in it, or salt looks like it might be little black spots or red or beige, based on all the minerals that are actually in the water, and then that is all remaining.
That's just Mother Earth's sweet, sweet dust.
That's it, man, that's it. My water temperature is pretty cold. I would say that this is probably about 50, 55 degrees maybe.
Feels so good.
Yeah, especially in here with this wood oven on.
So hot. They're used to me sweating.
Over here, what I'm gonna do is, there's no rules on this. I'm gonna put maybe about, let's call it about 10-15% of this. And then all I'm gonna do is with my hands, I'm gonna make this into something that looks like pancake batter.
All right.
The reason is that even though this is very loose, right, we're forming gluten. And what I wanna try to do is, I wanna build a layer of separation between the salt and the yeast. So this little bit of yeast is all we need, right? 1 gram of yeast is plenty of yeast for this. With this, what I'm gonna do, because it's fresh yeast, as I kind of put this through my fingers are still a little wet from this water, you can see that it's dissolving, it's becoming a paste, and that's all we want. This is where we actually mix. All my ingredients are in except the rest of the flour, right? So I'm gonna continue shaking this flour in a little at a time, and this is gonna continue getting thicker and thicker. When you were a kid, did you watch a lot of Bob Ross?
Oh, dude, Bobby? We can actually make you Bob Ross right now. Look at the camera for a sec, hold on.
Happy little
How'd that
trees.
feel?
It looked great, man. It
Happy
felt weird
little
coming
trees.
back, but if you open that cabinet, I actually got Bob Ross mints in there with the happy little trees.
From 1984?
Dude, open that cabinet. I swear to God, right now.
Oh my God, dude. Are they actually tree shaped?
Happy little tree mints.
Oh my God, they're tree shaped. Dude, I think we should both take one to like try to absorb some of his power.
I promise you they're not like laced with like, you know, Viagra or something.
Oh, that's no fun.
It's like a Pez. If you imagine when Bob started doing a painting, right? He'd have a blank canvas. It kind of looked like this. And then little by little, he'd get a big brush out and he'd start just tapping paint on things. And next thing you know, he had like the whole background. He would cut in the birds, and next thing you know, he's got National Geographic on this beautiful painting,
wild.
right? And that's what we're really doing, is we're building the canvas of our pizza. And this slow process like this is allowing us to kind of let the flour absorb the water on its own terms, right? It's not overworked, it's not overmixed. And this method goes back 300 years, right? Time before there was machines. All these little like balls, these little beads of flour that are not dissolved, it's totally fine because we haven't even started mixing yet. So the process of this, as we continue to move around in here, it's really in this aeration of the flour. And you'll see that without a lot of work, I'm not sweating, even though I'm in front of a 900 degree oven.
Yeah.
It really just comes from this. And I'm using the side of my hand to kind of scrape this bowl, and everything that's around is kind of slowly getting formed into the middle. Now, if you look here really closely, you can start seeing all these kind of like little strands.
Yeah.
This is the formation of the actual gluten. We're just kind of adding all of this flour in slowly, right? Okay, so this dough is done. I'm gonna form this into a ball. I'm gonna put this back into the bowl, and I'm gonna let this rest covered. We're gonna let this rest for about 20 minutes, come back, finish kneading it, and this dough is completely done. I'll show you how to make dough balls. Now, all I did was I kind of mixed this all together. I didn't knead this yet because I wanted to show you guys that just letting Mother Nature handle this will do a lot of the mixing for you. Because even though you still see that it's kind of lumpy and shaggy still,
So smooth.
if you look at this right now, the gluten has actually developed where this is like taffy. Right?
Wow.
Look at that. And it's still not even mixed yet. We've allowed the water to kind of sink into the flour. And now what I'm gonna do is really just knead this until it's smooth. I don't need any more flour.
That's a mistake a lot of people make. They overflour their surface when they're kneading.
Yeah, because
Right.
if your recipe calls for flour or water or whatever it is, a certain way, the more you put into it, the more you're changing the recipe. Now, like this, look in just a few movements here.
The stretch and fold.
How the stretch and fold, right? Look at the difference in just a couple stretch and folds, how beautiful this is.
Oh my God, look how smooth that is. You barely touched it. Like, I wish you guys could feel this right now. It's like the softest skin you'll ever come. It's very moisturized, you know?
I could have easily showed you how to mix this dough on a $3,000 dough mixer made for home purpose, but there's no lesson in that. If you know how to make this by hand, once you finally do go plug in your KitchenAid mixer,
You know what you're looking for.
yeah, and you're not gonna overwork this dough. From here, I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna put it on the side for a few minutes. I'm gonna let this rest again for 15 minutes.
Got it.
At that time, I'm gonna come back, make my dough balls, put this away, and we're done with it.
Shaping time.
Our dough is completed. When we divide dough, the only thing that I would suggest is get yourself a small digital scale. Typical dough ball for Neapolitan pizzas could be anywhere between 180 grams to 280 grams, depending on the size. For home bakers, I love to do a 10-inch pizza because I think you can make a lot of them. People are eating an individual pizza, especially if you're gonna get other people getting involved, maybe a pizza party, something like that. In the Neapolitan method, we cut the dough straight across, right? And we make kind of like this rope, if you will. Now, they have something called the staglio a mano. We roll this in a little ball like this, kind of folding these ears in on top of itself. And then we bring everything together to a point, kind of pinch this off and pull. Now, to keep myself honest, this is a little bit big, right? I wanted 180 grams, so I'm gonna chop a little bit off. Now that I'm there, I'm gonna bring this into the center. Smooth side, bring this down, all the ugly side here in the middle, and then almost like a change purse, I'm gonna fold all of this around onto itself into a point. You see how I call it like a change purse?
Yeah.
And there's our dough ball. Doesn't need to be very tight. This dough would sit out for anywhere between, let's call it 8 to 24 hours.
That's the classic AVPN way of doing it.
Yes, never gets refrigerated. This would go inside of a dough box. Right?
That's what this big thing is, dough box for fermentation.
Dough box.
And
this would be in a restaurant. We have these all around.
And I think it's worth saying, I actually have a version of this that I picked up online that fits in a regular, it takes up less of a footprint in a regular fridge. These are meant to go into walk-ins, right?
Yes.
You have a lot of refrigeration space. At home, it's not really like that. These pizza boxes are very useful and do pretty much ferment your pizza like perfectly. I do recommend picking one of those up, but there's also ways that we'll talk about for the homemade version, you know, that you can kind of dance around it.
And this is it. We make our dough balls. I like to put in a box, a full box like this. I would say try to do 3 rows of 5. If you've got what sometimes they call the artisan series or the home baker box, right, which is literally half the size of this, I would say you could either probably do about 9 in a box. I want to keep about 2 fingers between each one. This size dough ball is right about here.
All right, pizza, right? What is it? It's bread, sauce, toppings. We gotta talk sauce, we gotta talk tomatoes.
So not all tomatoes are created equal. Tomatoes, as we talk about them in Neapolitan pizza, we always talk about the Holy Grail, which is the San Marzano. There's enough fake San Marzanos to fill the ocean, I'm sure, right? What we're looking for is this orange stamp right here. This is the certification that these are from the right area, certifying that these are real San Marzanos. You'll know they're real San Marzanos because they'll probably say on the can that they're from Agro Sarnese Nocerino. DOP is not always a telltale sign.
Got it.
And a few years ago, one of the large importers of Italian tomatoes, right, came out and they found out that they were not real San Marzanos.
Wow.
Hit the front cover of New York Times.
Actually?
Yeah.
Tomato beef, dude.
They actually were the front page headline was the Scam Marzano. Nocerino is such a small area. It's literally under an overpass. It's very dry, just dry dirt. And you say, how could anybody imagine that the entire supply of San Marzano tomatoes for the entire world is made in this small spot? This is why they created this consortium. They're numbered right here. You can see there's a number on the can because this small little can was about $7. These particular mutis, these San Marzanos, are sometimes very difficult to get. The one that you probably will find all the time is these here, right? Now, these being from this Agro Sarnese, right? These are from the region of Campania, right? Campania is the region where Mount Vesuvius is. The rest of these, you'll notice on the can, these are also known as the tomatoes of what city?
Parma.
Parma. I got a tattoo on the side of my neck, the whole 9 yards, right? Parma's kind of in a valley. So what happens is you got a lot of cold air going down into the valley. You've got a lot of heat up above the rim, causing lots of rain, lots of humidity, lots of fog. And all of a sudden, the terrain that they grow these tomatoes in gives you a much sweeter tomato.
It's like fruitier juice. It's very similar to wine.
Yes.
You know, you got your more acidic, like old vine wines that like the grape really struggles and produces that sort of like, you know, those properties here. And then you have something in a valley with a lot of moisture, which is juicier and fruitier.
Yes, and that's what you have here. Different tomato. As far as the AVPN is concerned, these are approved. These are from the right region, in Campania, all that great stuff.
So are these.
Yes, these are both acceptable. To the AVPN, these come from the wrong spot. Right? So these tomatoes would not be approved. Since we're talking about a traditional AVPN pizza, and then we're going to be talking about one that's modified for home use, I think we'll use this to make a beautiful margherita in the big wood-fired oven. And then we'll do a copycat for home with these ones that are from Parma, that are still a really amazing tomato, right? Just from a little bit different region.
Love it.
And they're gonna make a beautiful pizza as well.
All right, so how do you make the sauce here?
Okay, now, according to the Associazione Verace Pizza Napolitana, we need San Marzano tomatoes, or as close as we can get to them, right? And then sea salt. Why sea salt? Because again, just like in our dough, it came from water, likes to go back into water, so it absorbs a lot better. Anything else that we're gonna put on this pizza, we're gonna put on the pizza, not in the sauce. Now,
should we pop it open?
Pop it open.
Dumperner.
These tomatoes, when you look at them, they're very thin, skinny. They have this little point at the bottom. This point is how you know that these are San Marzanos.
Really?
Right?
Okay.
Because the Roma tomato or the plum tomato are more bell-shaped. These are straight, right? The other thing about a San Marzano tomato, when we open these up, you'll notice that there's very few seeds. And the seeds are very small.
Tiny.
Another tell of a real
Got it.
San Marzano tomato. You also notice that there's not a lot of those stringy bits through the middle here, right? And at the end over here, where it's mostly unripened, this is the part that would be hanging from the plant, right? You'll see that it's almost all gone as far as the skins go. You'll see that the tip here is the same in color as the bottom, meaning that they were picked at the right time in the harvest. Sprinkle in, I don't know, a little bit of sea salt. That's perfect. Throw that in. That's really all we need. From here, we're going to take our hand and just squeeze these. I try to squeeze them below the line of the tomato. You
Keep everything inside so it doesn't spray on your beautiful whites. This is called the Italian blender right here.
That's right. And I use my hands for everything. Guys, trust me, it's clean. When we go through this, right, occasionally we will find some of those parts in the center, the stringy parts, that might be a little under-ripened. And you'll feel them, just like this. Feel that. It feels like a little pebble.
Yeah, so we take that out.
I like to take it out.
We'll
I don't
take
like
that
to
out.
keep that in there.
Remove the pebbles.
If you were to go to the grocery store and you say, all I can find is domestic tomatoes from California, right? Get yourself some good whole peel ones. Ground tomatoes are really good too, right? But I prefer to use whole peel tomatoes because I can go through this sorting process myself and really check them out.
Control the texture the most.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Look at the ingredient statement on the can, because sometimes tomatoes have salt already added to them, right?
Good tip.
So it's really good to know, because you don't want this too salty. And then this is really it. Some people looking at this that are used to eating, let's say, American style pizzas, or, you know, we're in Chicago and known for our deep dish and all these other things, those are much more concentrated tomatoes, right? It's a totally different game. So before you start putting in the comments that this is not going to make a great pizza, I'm going to say it from my buddy Adam, try it first. Okay?
Yeah, try it first. Yeah. Leo's got shooters. So for both our pizzas, we're making margaritas. This is the topping. This is the plate of all the toppings we're going to be talking about. So what do we got?
This is fior di latte. Fior di latte is fresh mozzarella made from cow's milk. We're going to use this specifically in the high temp oven, 900 degree oven, and we're going to use fresh mozzarella exactly the way we would see fior di latte used in Napoli. On this side, however, this is low moisture whole milk mozzarella, which you can easily find in a grocery store. Buy it in a chunk and then cut it yourself. The reason I'm using this is because our max temperature in our oven is 550 degrees, not 900. But if I cut this up into these cubes like this, it takes a little bit longer to melt, but they will melt nice and white, just like this cheese will. And it's gonna be as close as you can get it in your home oven.
Cool.
And then obviously over here, fresh basil. We need fresh basil. Should smell like your grandma's
grandma's underwear.
It should smell like your grandmother's garden in the middle of August.
Love that.
Right? Very simple, very clean, and let's make a pizza.
Okay. Here we got our VPN dough. Never been in the fridge.
Never. It's been out for
21 hours and 50 minutes?
almost 22 hours.
Yeah, almost
right?
a day.
This dough historically in Napoli would need to spend almost 24 hours out, because by the time we make it the night before, it not only has to be good for the lunch shift in the restaurant, but it has to hit the end of the work shift at the end of the day, which could potentially be 10, 11 p.m., midnight sometimes. So we need this dough to go almost 24 hours. This is why there's barely any yeast in this, because that slow process of raising this
It would
up,
be way too wild if you put too much yeast in there.
too much. And then when you see this, these
Pretty.
dough balls now have spread. They
They
actually smell yeasty.
You can, right when you lifted that up, you just get wafted in the face with like a yeast punch.
And that dough doesn't look like it's so overpowered,
No.
right? Like it's so puffy. These actually are in the perfect spot. I'm using some semolina flour here. This is double ground semolina called semola rimacinata. Typically though in Naples, we wouldn't use this. We would use the same flour that was used for our dough. So I'm gonna go all the way around the dough ball, just like this. Then I'm going to use this very technical tool here. This is not for drywall.
No,
right?
you didn't get it at Home Depot.
No, this is not. But I've seen plenty of people use the ones from Home Depot. So you'll notice that this has a tip. In this corner of this dough ball, there's also a tip. So if I take this and I push into the corner, come straight down, push down, and it comes straight back, I've now released this off the box. So
I
it's
was
down
doing it wrong.
and back here. up into the corner, down and back. I'm gonna get under the dough ball, give this a little lift, and now
Perfect.
I've undisturbed this dough ball, and I'm gonna go directly into my flour here. Very important when you use a big dough box or multiple dough balls, cover the dough. We're gonna give this one little dredge in our flour, if you will. We don't want a lot of excess flour because flour at that temperature burns. You might see a dough or a pizza that looks like it's burnt in appearance, but it's actually the flour that's burnt on the pizza. It's not the pizza itself. I'm gonna take some of this flour out of here. I'm gonna get this back into a round. If I make an imaginary line, I'm gonna push like I'm playing the piano. I'm gonna push to make a line about 1 finger's width from the edge. Give it a flip. I'm gonna do the same thing. Why? Because I split the difference. All the air bubbles that are in here, you can see are starting to pop up. If I was to start here and go to the opposite direction, it would build up all those gases, and then I'd just make a big bubble and I'd lose them. Like this, it's gonna give you more of an open, light, airy structure. So I've gone in one direction, I'm gonna turn and flip it over. I'm gonna do the same thing in this direction. Now I only wanna make a 10-inch pizza. So you'll see that I'm already probably about 6 inches. From here, my hand has this kind of curve. I'm gonna lift, pull, turn.
Make it look so easy.
It's just a slap. And actually, this method in Napoli is called a schiaffo. Schiaffo is like the shot your grandmother, your mother might have given you when you were a kid when you were bad, right? Put this down.
These are the VPN tomatoes.
These are the San Marzanos.
San Marzans.
So from here, I'm giving this a stir so that any excess salt that might not have been incorporated is now mixed in. And then I'm going to put one nice dollop of sauce right in the center. And then I'm going to give this a turn. I don't want to go over the edge because the sugars that are naturally inside the tomato will burn at 900 degrees. And you'll have a burnt edge, which doesn't.
And what are the edges called? The cornicione.
Cornicione, which means the frame, like the frame of a picture. Nice sprinkle of Parmigiano Reggiano. We're going to take some of that fior di latte, cow's milk mozzarella, without exaggerating it. A little goes a long way with this stuff. I'm just going to kind of lay them here. A couple of them I made a little bit thicker, no big deal. A couple leaves of fresh basil. If they're really big like this one, I can just cut them in a few pieces, just kind of drop them wherever they're at. We're not making an art project. This is called an oliera, right? An olive oil cruet in English. It has a little notch here on the back. This is for your thumb. Huh. And as we put this on, this is to control the flow of oil coming out, right? So the more I keep this closed, the less oil comes out the tip.
Wow.
The idea is that we're gonna make this number 6. All right, and this is enough oil. The oil is on here just to kind of keep everything flowing and moving, right? Now, I'm going to give you a very important job.
What's up? I can do something.
In Napoli, when you're an apprentice, the apprentice doesn't get to do much but grunt labor work. I'm going to have you hold this here.
All right.
In Napoli, they would call you morto. Morto is the dead guy. Why do they call you morto? Because all night long, you're going to die at the end of this peel. You're not going to move. But why is this an important job? Because it gives you an opportunity to see every single pizza, every single night, go on the peel and go into the oven. And it's the only way you can learn this. I'm going to take whatever flour I can fit in 2 fingers from here to the front. I'm going to give it a dusting. And then just give this a little twist. 10 inches is all we need, remember?
Yes,
so
sir.
We don't need to make this very large. I'm going to go in, stop, pull straight back. You'll notice that there wasn't a lot of flour. You would know if the pizza had a lot of flour because you'd see a streak along the stones. This oven is like over 900 degrees now. And you'll see within the first 30 seconds, the edge or the cornicione is going to start to bubble up very large, right? And then as this is cooking, I'm looking for the part here closest to the fire, right there. And you'll start to see these small little micro bubbles or leopard spots, right? As soon as it's ready, right now, you see those black spots have started to be created. I'm going to come under, I'm going to give this pizza a turn, and I'm going to put it back exactly. You see where the ring is on the floor? Exactly in the spot that it was just in. Because on this 900 degree floor, some of that heat has been absorbed inside of this pizza. And if I was to move it on a fresh hot spot, it would instantly burn underneath. But looking under here, it looks like it's perfect. I've got nice browning on the edge. I'm gonna give this one more turn, put it back on the spot that it was just in, and then I'm gonna get a dish. Our pizza's done. I'm gonna give this a turn, and then I'm gonna come right here onto the plate.
That was 90 seconds, huh?
90 seconds. Neapolitan pizza is not supposed to be a crispy pizza, but outside of the oven, you can actually hear that little snap, right? Something like this we would eat at the table with a knife and fork.
I love the scissors.
But I love using a pair of scissors. I love cutting this size pizza. Actually, if I was by myself, I would fold it in half and shove it in my mouth. But since we got all these viewers here, let's cut it into 4 nice pieces. Just like that. Watch your mouth. Nice, beautiful, spotted on the bottom. Not burnt. Mozzarella is pulling. Look at this.
Wow.
A little bit of olive oil, tomato sauce.
And this is something to be enjoyed immediately.
You should sit at the table and eat this pizza.
Let's do it.
Salud.
VPN, baby.
You go first, because you're going to burn your mouth, dude.
That's really, really, really nice, man. It's so simple. It's got a little bit of that moisture on there, which I think people are scared of with pizza, but with this style, it's beautiful. It works well, and it plays nicely with the charry dough. The VPN. All right, so pizza 1 done. We kind of took out all the bells and whistles for that. We did it the legit way, the authentic way that they would do in Napoli. Now we're gonna do the home version, if you will. That should be accessible for most people in the country, right?
There's a few changes that we made, but the recipe's gonna stay exactly the same as what you saw before, and I think you'll probably have it in the comments,
Yeah,
right?
we'll pop all this information for you in the description. You can check that out if you wanna try this at home.
Awesome. I'm gonna be using bread flour, or all-purpose flour would be fine too. Bread flour is a little bit stronger strength. If you go to your local grocery store, you can find bread flour in the regular baking aisle, right? The other thing too is, on the last recipe, I used fresh yeast, because fresh yeast is what we use traditionally. There's a lot of people across the country that might say, you know what, I can't find fresh yeast in the grocery store. Usually they hide fresh yeast in the dairy section by the eggs, because it needs to stay refrigerated. But in the baking section with the flour, you've probably seen a million of these, right? These are Red Star yeast. This is a sachet. Each one of these is 7 grams. We don't need a full one of these. We probably need about 5 grams. So it's probably about 3/4 of one of these is fine. If you want to use the whole thing, it's going to go really fast. Make sure you use cold water, right? Then I'm still going to be using sea salt, and I'm still going to be using water.
Cool.
Awesome. Let's do it. We're going to start, again, all the water in the bowl. I'm going to add in all of my salt, and then I'm going to use my hand to dissolve. You could easily use a KitchenAid mixer. The process would be exactly the same, because the planetary mixer, like the KitchenAid, right, would definitely work better with you adding all the water in the bottom of the bowl, putting the salt, dissolving it, and then we're about to put our, let's call it 10% or so of flour.
Same exact process as last time.
To make the paste, same exact flour as last time. And then in the mixing bowl, as this is going, never go over first speed. We don't want this to go as fast as we can, because it's just gonna beat the dough up too much. Keep it on that stir setting, and that'll be just fine. This yeast that I showed you is instant yeast. I'm gonna sprinkle this right on top. And again, because we formed that layer of gluten into this, I'm not worried about the salt in here anymore. I'm gonna continue putting a little bit at a time.
Just like last time.
Why do we like to use 00 flour as pizzaioli? Because of the way that the dough is created.
Like the way it absorbs water.
Exactly right. And it's less stressed out. You can see I'm doing more work to get this dough to come together so that I can mix all of this flour into it. Even though we're talking about the same formula, right? It literally comes down to the refinement of the flour. The flour has had a chance to absorb in this, and then even though this isn't a highly refined 00 flour, you're going to see the attributes just like we saw on the AVPN dough. And you got to remember, I'm not beating this up. I'm not overworking this. I'm literally bowl scraper, right? Taking this out, and you can see again that even though this is grocery store flour, look at the structure. And actually, if you see right here, I don't know from the camera if you can see it, you can actually see the structure of the gluten netting. The same way we did the last one, right? Basically, I'm just pushing forward and rolling back. I'm using this part, the heel of my palms. pushing forward and rolling back until we got this like kind of long looking burrito. At least these are
it is like a burrito,
I eat, right? And then if we turn this, we've made a seam, right? So we're always working with this open side. From here, fold it in about 1/3 of the way, push forward, roll back, and we're going to do this a few times. Now that we've got the burrito again, here's the opening.
Flipping it over,
here's
same
the
thing.
Seam. Here's the opening. Start from here, flip it back, and we're going to push down a few times. Look how beautiful. Look at all the air bubbles that we see inside over here. So we're going to divide this the same way, but I've got a couple hacks as far as being able to show you how to store these, right?
Cool.
Same thing. We'll make that same size dough ball. If you want to do 180 grams, beautiful. If you want to make a bigger dough ball, a 12-inch pizza, I typically do 250 grams, but it could go all the way up to 280. Once we have our dough balls like this, two methods. I've got this one here where I'm rolling and folding back on itself. So what I'm trying to do is pinch the two seams together. Same thing here where the two openings are, I pinch them together. And I continue doing this back and forth, right? Until we've got this nice smooth skin. And then I just literally am pinching all the center points.
Getting that coin person.
Yeah.
Or that bow. It looks like a little bow.
Maybe like a bow, exactly right. On the other side of this, if you've ever seen anybody making fresh mozzarella, or if you've ever traveled to Italy, right? The word mozzare comes from this action here. To take this and you kind of lace your fingers together, right?
Oh, that's cool.
And you've probably seen this if you've ever seen fresh mozzarella being made, where like buffalo milk mozzarella has this like little flap. Yeah. And again, this is nice and closed. And this would be sufficient.
I like that. That's a very simple technique, the little...
Yep, exactly right. Now, as far as storing these goes, there's a lot of different containers. I prefer these individual, locking, I don't know what you would call these.
Tupperware, Rubbermaid,
you
whatever.
Get these at any grocery store, right? I put a little bit of oil inside over here because it's going to help you release these when you go to take them out. Put one dough ball inside
seam side down.
Container, seam side down, exactly. Because as these sit in the refrigerator, the weight of this will kind of cause it to drop and spread. You're closing the bottom, but then that olive oil is kind of taking this wherever it needs to go, right?
Very nice.
If you had a bunch of dough balls to make, like this dough, the recipe will give you a bunch of dough balls.
How many would this make, would you say, roughly?
Probably about, at this size, probably about 12 to 15.
Got it.
Something like this, same thing. It's a little bit larger container, just like you saw my large dough box.
Yep.
If you wanted to use that same exact technique, you could easily put, at this size, 180 grams, put 6 of them in here, right?
Bam.
2, 2, 2, right?
Okay.
So you have a total of 6. Make sure there's a little bit of oil on here and the bottom, and then just seal this closed. And then these go into the refrigerator, and then 24 hours later, before you're ready to make your pizzas, I'll pull the dough out of the refrigerator, allowing them to warm up, and then to begin that proofing process, and then you're ready to begin. Usually I do it when I light the oven or I go to warm up my oven and my pizza stones.
We're taking advantage of the fridge here at home.
Yes.
When you're making it the VPN way, you kind of, are, I wouldn't say restricted by time, but you have a certain window that you need to work in because you're not using refrigeration for it to be the right way. At home, we can take advantage of our fridge and control that fermentation.
That's right.
Home style sauce, it's pretty much the exact same technique. We're just using the different tomatoes that we talked about, so.
You can actually see the difference.
Oh yeah, and the sauce especially too, it's thicker.
What I like to do is I'll take a little bit and just kind of shake it over the top.
So a lot more salt because there's more tomatoes, that's sweeter, so you need to balance more.
Yeah, exactly right. And again, you're never going to notice. It looks like it's a lot, but this is double the size can.
Yeah, totally.
Right? And same thing, just get your hands in there, get dirty.
Pick out the little clumpers and we're good to go.
That's it. Ooh.
That was close, dude. I was about to be like, no. No. Yeah, I'll dodge in front of you with my apron.
All right, let's make some pizzas. I've got my flour right here. The only thing you got to be careful of is that you've got a little bit of oil now inside over here. And if I put too much flour, that oil will kind of stick to all this flour. So I want to do my best not to make it all go in here. From here, I'm going to give this a little dredge. And I'm going to show you a little tip. So the last pizza that we made, I showed you that kind of slapping technique.
Yep.
I'm going to give you like the training wheels version. If we push the edges down around, making this kind of flat, okay? And then I take this dough, place it on the flat side of this bowl, and I continue pressing down in the center. Notice what's happening here. Not only is it growing, I'm not distressing the cornicione. So I can literally get this to the point by pressing where it's almost 10 inches. I'm going to put a little bit of flour, because this pizza now is being baked on a pizza stone. My oven's at 550 degrees.
Beautiful.
This is the Italian tomatoes that are from Parma that we hand crushed. Put some of this here onto the base. Give this the same turn without going over the cornicione. If it looks like it's too much from the outside, just pull it back into the middle. I'm gonna put a little Parmigiano in the middle. I'm gonna use some of that low moisture whole milk mozzarella, and I'm gonna kind of put this all over like this. Because again, this is gonna take a little bit longer to bake than 90 seconds. Having these cubes of mozzarella just like this will continue to let this bloom up. In this, some people like to add on the basil post-bake instead of baking it on. To me, I kind of go back and forth. Let's do this post-bake.
Sure.
So you can review it, because this oven is going to bake a lot longer, and that basil is probably going to look very black, almost like it's burnt and disintegrated by the time it comes out.
Got it.
From here, now that my pizza's built, I'm going to grab it underneath the edge, and I'm going to kind of just give this a last stretch to make this the final size of my pizza, to 10 inches. And then the last thing that I'm going to do is just kind of give this a little shake. Make sure that it moves. From here, I'm going to go to the oven. My oven is set as hot as it'll go. I set 550 degrees, and I set 2 pizza stones inside of this oven, one on the bottom and one on the top. The reason it's set up like this is because I've got more of a uniform temperature top and bottom than just doing one pizza stone. I also like square stones because it's much easier to put a round pizza on a square stone than a round stone, because it's almost like on a round pizza stone, you're trying to hit a bullseye every single time. So a square pizza stone will give you more surface area, making it easier to put the pizza in. Going in here now, I'm gonna find my spot in the oven, give this a little rock. And there we go. Let's close this up, and the rest is up to the pizza stone in the oven.
Heck yeah. All right, how long has it been?
Exactly 1 Peroni. No, all kidding aside, this is probably about 5.5 minutes. Look at the beautiful color that we have on this, right? Nice and like spotted on the edges. The cheese is still looking white and spread, not pooled. Now we can go and finish this. A little drizzle of olive oil, and we'll just kind of spread this out here on top, right? This pizza, because it baked at a lower temperature, is gonna be more crispy.
Definitely.
And you can actually hear that snap. When we hold this, we probably won't even need to
Look at that.
it.
Yep.
Pizza at home.
I'm gonna fold this and burn my mouth again.
I'm gonna bite the end. Look at the color. How much more uniform this is on the bottom. Really nice and crispy, but it's still nice and chewy in the middle.
Yeah.
Right? Neapolitan pizza should taste and smell like fresh baked bread. And that's what this does.
Totally. It's so simple, it's so fresh, and I think that's like what I really like about it. You know, they say when you like eat like peaches or tomatoes, it reminds you of summer. This reminds me of summer for some reason. And
if you look really close, I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but look at the structure. You see bubbles all the way to the tip. That's why in a properly made dough, with all the ingredients respected, even with store-bought all-purpose flour like we used, or bread flour, you can still make a really nice pizza at home. And again, it's just understanding the steps to go through it.
I hope you guys learned a thing or two about Neapolitan style pizza. Leo, thank you so much, man. I know I learned a lot today.
Man, thank you you guys for coming here. It was so amazing to have you and spend the afternoon with you. And man, I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, dude, it was great. And I think I lost about 20 pounds, so thanks for that as well.
It's hot in here.
Yeah. If you guys want more Leo, tell them where they can find you.
You can go to all my social media and find me at Ask Chef Leo, or my website, leospizzirri.com. And if you're interested in even taking a pizza class, come and check me out at thepizzauniversity.org, where we have classes going all the time in every style of pizza, and I'd love to have you in class sometime.
Heck yeah, and I'll put all that information down in the description below so you can check them out easily.
You're the best, bro. Ciao, amici.